Hello YouTube, Joel from Jonesy's, and this is part 3 of our Land Rover LS Defender 90 swap. This video we're going to go over some more installation details about the radiator, the air intake piping, as well as exhaust and fuel systems. So stick around for those installation details next. We've been making really good progress on the Land Rover. If you watched part 2 of our installation, I talked about the LS conversion radiator. Well, here it is. As described, it's got the correctly sized water inlets and outlets, as well as the air breather fitting. So it'll be easy to adapt the radiator hoses from the inlet over to the top of the engine, because that stuff is all sized correctly. Probably going to have a steel tube in here that kind of gets the bend around. I did a video about that, how we construct those, so check that out if you're interested. Heater hoses will come off of the 2 fittings right down there, and then kind of snake around up past our air intake and then go to the original heater box. So we still have a couple brackets I need to make to support this radiator. We're going to use the original Rover mounts on the bottom, so we'll weld a couple of pins on the bottom of the radiator, and then we will utilize these factory mounting bolt holes here and build a bracket that kind of comes up and probably saddles over top of this radiator and holds it in place. But as you can see, we've got enough room for our fan, and once we get the radiator mounted, we'll construct a fan shroud over here to make sure we have good cooling and to keep things out of the fan. So that pretty much takes care of all of the radiator mounting. We'll go over here and I'll show you what we've got going on with our air intake tube. So for the air intake tube, I just started out with 2 4-inch mandrel bent 45-degree aluminum air intake tubes, as well as a 90-degree boot. This is just a little coupler I have so that I can get all of my clocking and I can get my position correctly for this air intake tube. And once once I am happy with my mock-up, we'll TIG weld all the way around this and it won't have this coupler. And I'll utilize a little support bracket right directly off of that coil mounting stud. And like I described in the second video, we're just gonna have a straight, simple air cleaner right here. Now, obviously this intake tube doesn't have provisions for the mass airflow sensor. So luckily aftermarket has a lot of support for this type of stuff. And we were able to source a weld on bung. And so I'm gonna position that right in there. Nice straight piece of tube. So won't have any issues with readings on that. And we'll put links to some of these products and part numbers in the description of this video in case you need them for your application. Now there are lots of different configurations based off of whether or not it's a car or a truck mass airflow sensor. Ours happens to be a truck. And so luckily ICT Billet makes the correct piece for that mass airflow sensor. Now, while we're over here, you can see we've got the fuel inlet, and it's just a single inlet. This is a returnless fitting, and so we bought this fuel line adapter, and it's the threaded type, so it actually screws on, which is very good because some of the plastic clip style ones have been known to pop off. And so this one being a screw type fitting, and again, we'll put a link to this product in the description, makes it so that this can't come apart. And then it just has your regular number 6 JSC or AN fitting on the other side. And so because this is a returnless intake manifold, there's no pressure regulator. So what we have done for that is, again, the aftermarket makes these. This is for a Corvette style application, but the cool thing is that we were able to get it already with the number 6 AN fittings already brazed on there. So no more adapters, nothing. And so it's very simple. It's got your pressure in and your regulated return back to the tank on the out. So we'll mount this down on the frame. Simple one hose coming up to here, and then 2 hoses going back to the tank for the return. So that pretty much takes care of the fuel system plumbing. Now, one thing we ran into when we flopped the intake manifold from forward to back, the oil pressure sensor screwed into the back of the valley pan. Here you can see we have one right there. And that was just significantly too tall. And so we are going to, this right here, this valley pan is for a displacement on demand or active fuel management delete kit. And so we are actually going to be machining this down and plugging this and then relocating this sensor down to the side of the oil pan down there. And they make a conversion adapter so that you can do that to eliminate the oil pressure feed under the intake manifold. It just was not going to work over there because it interfered with the throttle body. So going back to the active fuel management, what I've decided to do for this engine is we are deleting the active fuel management. It's not going to have the DOD. So no displacement on demand. It won't go into 4-cylinder mode. So your exhaust tone will stay the same. Everything will stay exactly like it's running on all 8 cylinders all the time. But what we are going to do is we are going to keep the variable valve timing on this engine, and we're going to keep the stock camshaft. This engine, obviously LS3, 2012 Cadillac Escalade, all aluminum block, 6.2 liters. It is rated at 430 horsepower with the stock cam and the variable valve timing. So that is more than enough for the little aluminum body Land Rover. So I don't think we're going to have any shortage of horsepower in this unit. So that kind of covers all of the installation details of what we got going on the top side. So let's put this thing up in the air and you guys can check out the exhaust. Okay, here we are under the Land Rover, and you guys can check out what we fabricated. Comes directly off of the manifolds with a flange, both sides, and mounted the oxygen sensor weld-in bung right there. You want to have these to be relatively close, or as close as you can, to the outlet of the manifold. Everything just works better. And then it comes back, and you can see we built a custom Y pipe right here. With the transfer case, the way that it's configured, running traditional duals, I don't think would have been nearly as clean. It potentially could have been done if we wanted to drop it down below this mount. But things start to get really, really tight back here. This is a really narrow frame. And so doing the 2-into-1 Y pipe setup, I think, just makes for a much, much cleaner installation. We flange everything on our exhaust, so have it flanged so that you can take this front Y pipe out, and you can also remove the muffler section. Installed 2 of the bullet style hangers off of the existing bracket. So that makes for nice clean setup there. And then we tried to tuck it up and as level, if not tucked up higher than the frame rail as we possibly could. It's an off-road vehicle. We don't want a lot of things hanging down. And so we were able to tuck the muffler up tight to the chassis as much as we could. And then there's another flange before we do a 90 and snake the exhaust tailpipe out through and have it exit in the stock location. Here's a better view of what we've got going on. We're able to utilize the factory hanger And then we have the pipe coming out in the stock location. Not sure, I may end up slicing this off at an angle. Not really sure yet exactly how we like that, or if we just kind of leave it the way that it is. I purposely left it a little bit long so that we could have some options. Now there is a mud flap that comes right here, so we'll have to keep that in mind. But all in all, I'm really happy with how the exhaust system turned out. It looks really good. It's tucked up really tight in there, and it's just gonna sound really good with that 400 plus horsepower V8 and that Dynamax Super Turbo muffler. So kind of plan forward now. We are really close to being able to say that we're done with almost all of the mock-up. We still have a little bit of mock-up left to do and some bracketry that we need to build. And then once that's complete, we'll be able to decide what we're going to do for body and paint. And as it stands right now, because this body is pretty rough, I mean, it's got lots of dents, it's got exposed rivets, the top of the fenders are oil canned pretty heavily. This is not a premium straight body. This thing has had a hard life. I am leaning towards, and I'd love to hear your guys' input, I'm leaning towards tinting some U-Pole Raptor liner, the stock color for the Rover, so that it will appear to be the stock color, but it will have a textured appearance. I've had really good luck doing that in the past. If you've been around my channel for a while, you've seen I've used Monster Liner a lot. The problem is Monster Liner has pre-packaged tints, and I really would like to keep this stock color for this Defender. So I'm leaning towards tinting some Raptor Liner with the color, the correct color, and coating it that way. I just think that'll look really sharp with all of the black accents, black bumper, black top, roll cage, things like that. So anyway, let me know your opinions on what you think we should do for body and paint. But as it stands right now, I'm thinking the tinted Raptor liner is the way to go. So anyway, thanks for watching. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and post your comments. Have a great day.